Hector the Inspector, written by Elaine Beret and illustrated by Emily Hurst Pritchett. Hector was a normal boy of normal size who lived in a normal town. Of course, all that probably depends on your definition of normal, but Hector felt pretty normal, except for his rather red hair. None of his friends had rather red hair, but he was okay with that. He lived with his mom and dad, so he also felt pretty lucky. He didn't have any brothers or sisters, so sometimes he felt lonely, but not often. He did feel other things, though. For a little guy, Hector often had pretty big feelings, and he didn't always like them. Even though he was just a kid, Hector could see the world around him had some pretty big problems. The world, he thought, was too noisy. It wasn't just pretty noisy, it was too noisy. Some of the noise was actual noise, like people on television news shouting at and over each other about their thoughts, feelings, opinions, and sometimes actual facts. Then there were kids making rude, loud, and pretty mean comments to their teachers, parents, and each other. Too often for Hector's liking, some teachers and parents were being rude to and yelling at the kids as well. Hector didn't like it when he heard parents scream at their kids in the grocery store, even if the kids were being pretty disobedient and incorrigible. This kind of noise really bothered Hector. Parents, he thought, should know better. Car horns honked and sirens wailed. Adults and kids alike gossiped and said unkind things. So many people were loud, just so loud, in so many ways. Everybody seemed to have a phone that was always buzzing, ringing, dinging, and tweeting. Nobody could or would ignore their phones. The phones, Hector thought, were always treated as if they were more important than the other people in the room. Hector couldn't quite figure it out, but some of the noise wasn't really noise at all. He couldn't hear it with his ears, but he could see it, like the people who interrupted anything and everything they were doing to look at their phones. In addition to sounding noisy, the constant motion and constant distraction looked and felt pretty noisy too. Can noise come through your eyes instead of your ears? Hector thought so, like when he was on the playground or at the park, and he couldn't hear what the kids way over there were saying, but he could still tell that some older boys were being mean to a younger boy. Or when he was walking around the neighborhood and saw trash blowing in the wind and clutter, sometimes even junk, sitting in some yards. Sad faces, angry gestures, impatient movements, loud hair, loud clothes, and all manner of frustrated expressions didn't sound noisy, but to Hector, they felt noisy. All the noise caused Hector to have those pretty big feelings that he didn't always like. All the noise made Hector feel icky inside sometimes. It made him sad and a little mad and very confused. It made him feel guilty, like he must have done something wrong, but he couldn't figure out what he did or why he felt that way. Sometimes the noise made him feel a bit anxious and scared, and on those days, he just didn't want to leave the comfort and safety of his peaceful, quiet home. One morning, when it was time to leave for school, Hector stood staring at the door, not wanting to leave, not wanting to step out into the chaos, not wanting to hear, see, or feel the noise. "Mom," he said, "sometimes the world is not a very nice place. It's too noisy. I don't want to go into it today." "There is so much noise," Hector said. "People yell and tease and get angry and frustrated at each other, and I don't understand why. The world is loud, and it makes me feel sad and icky." "I understand, Hector," said his mother, who was not looking at her phone. "It makes me feel icky too. But we can't avoid the whole entire world. What we can do is make a difference in it." Hector felt a little overwhelmed by what his mother said. His eyes grew wide as he wondered aloud, how can a normal kid like me, make a difference in the world? His mother was silent for a minute or two as she thought about that very good question. How can a little boy or girl make a difference in the world? Hector, she finally said, I think you need to start by looking for the good in the world. The noisy parts are easy to hear and see because they are noisy. You have to look hard, really search, and you will find the good. It's there. It's usually quiet, but it's there. When you find it, when you really see it, you will give it more life. Hector had no idea what his mother meant about giving the good more life, but he thought she was probably right about needing to search for it. His mom was always pretty right about stuff. He thought maybe he could search for good like a pirate would search for gold, or maybe he could search for good like a paleontologist would search for dinosaur bones, or like an entomologist would search for new bugs, or, better yet, like a detective would search for the answer to a big case. Inspector Hector, at your service. No, that didn't sound quite right. Hector the Inspector, searching for the good in the world. Yes, that was it. He would be Hector the Inspector, and he would spend as much time as he could searching for the good in the world. I need a clue, he said to his mother from the back seat of the car. What do you mean you need a clue? His mother asked. Well, he said, I guess I'm going to be like a detective searching for good in the world. And if I'm going to be a detective, I need a clue to get started. Detectives always find clues, he concluded. Hector's mother thought for another minute. Here's a clue, she said. First, look for kindness. Kindness? Hector asked. Yes, his mother mused. Kindness. With that, the game was afoot. After the story, I've included what we call back matter, and in the back matter, I have taken big feelings and big words from the story and put them back here and given you some definitions and examples to help you understand them a little bit better. And I've also included some questions for you to maybe discuss or to think about to help you investigate your own feelings and investigate the world around you, and maybe to help you figure out how you can do good in the world as well. So the story part is like the fun story part, and then this is more the how can I use this in my life part. So it's optional. Use the back matter if you want, or don't use the back matter. Either way, I hope you enjoy this story. Thanks. Bye.